The film opens with a magical shot, a dense forest in a quiet rural area. But the peace doesn't last long. From between the trees, a young boy, Lucas, appears helping his father, Louis, the harsh lumberjack, load wooden logs onto an old sled. Despite Lucas's desperate attempts to secure the load, Louis, the terrible father, keeps throwing more logs without caring, until the sled suddenly slips and starts sliding out of control. Louis explodes in anger, slapping his son violently and calling him useless. Humiliated and frustrated, Lucas runs deep into the forest. Not far away, we see Matthias, Lucas's close friend, riding his bike. Matthias spots his friend running alone and calls out to him, but Lucas doesn't look back. Without hesitation, Matthias follows his friend into the forest until he finds him, noticing the redness on his cheek. And in a strange moment, both of them find a mysterious door. Without hesitation, they open it and step inside. Behind the door is a small hideout, which suddenly becomes a stage for childhood imagination. The boys pretend to be soldiers, create imaginary battles, forget the outside world, and Lucas smiles at last. When leaving, they promise to meet again tomorrow and play once more. Before leaving, Matthias encourages Lucas not to let that terrible father hit him again, telling him he must stand up to him bravely. Later, we see the father and son traveling to the city in their car for some work. Louis asks Lucas to hand him the cigarettes, but Lucas refuses, saying his mother warned him about how harmful cigarettes are. Louis boils with anger, speeds up the car, and hits something unexpected on the road. The shock reveals that Louis has run over young Matthias. Matthias, who was crossing on his bike, sadly dies. Instead of reporting it or helping, Louis acts with cold cruelty. He removes the bike stuck in the front of the car and throws it deep into the forest. Then with merciless hands, he carries Matthias's body and buries it among the trees. Lucas watches everything from the back seat, frozen with terror. He can't move. He can't speak. Louis ends the scene by threatening Lucas not to talk or tell anyone. Later, Francis, Matthias's father, appears in front of them, telling them he is worried because his son hasn't returned since morning. Louis, coldly, reassures him that the boy is probably playing somewhere and will be back soon. But Francis glances at the anxious Lucas in the back seat, and a feeling of suspicion strikes him. In another scene, we see Louis raising an axe high above Lucas's head, but the scene breaks. Lucas wakes up terrified in his bed. It was only a nightmare. Years pass. Lucas grows older, but Matthias's memory continues to bleed silently inside him. Suddenly, Lucas receives a call from someone informing him that his parents' house has burned down and they both died. Lucas collapses in shock, and his girlfriend Julie embraces him, trying to calm him. Later, Lucas returns to his old town to bury his parents, accompanied by Julie and his close friend Arnold. Upon arriving at the charred house, Lucas explains how the officer said the parents' bodies were unrecognizable due to the intensity of the fire. Suddenly, Francis appears, now an old man, sitting in a wheelchair. He greets them with a calm smile, despite the unseen wounds he carries. Lucas hesitates but introduces his friends. Francis invites them for a cup of coffee at his home. Lucas hesitates, but Francis adds that the firefighters gave him a box containing Lucas's parents' belongings, forcing Lucas to accompany him to retrieve it. When they arrive, Francis tells them that this forest is his family, and he knows the place better than anything else. He impresses them with his strength despite his paralysis. Inside the house, he explains how an accident involving a sled caused his injury. He wants to show them how the sled works, so he takes them to his workshop next to the house. The place is filled with handmade wooden crafts, all created by him. Francis shows the guests a strange machine in his workshop, a wood-cutting blade sharp as death, slicing through logs as if they were pieces of butter. Then he shows them a small, finely crafted wooden sled model, proudly calling it a Schlitter. Arnold makes a light, mocking remark, saying it looks less dangerous than he expected. But Francis gets angry at his words and warns him that if this blade ever slipped, it would crush him. Upon returning to his house, Lucas asks for the box that the firefighters had given Francis. The old man confirms it is stored in the garage and promises to bring it immediately. While Francis is gone, Lucas begins preparing coffee to calm his nerves. But his heart stops when he finds an old cup belonging to Matthias. In the blink of an eye, Lucas imagines Matthias standing before him, revealing how deeply traumatized he still is by the incident. Francis returns carrying the box. Among its contents appear photos from Lucas's childhood, and another photo of Matthias. At that moment, Francis reveals the painful incident of his son Matthias, who died in an accident while driving his car and falling into a ravine. He adds in a broken voice that after his son's death, his wife could not bear the pain and chose to leave this world as well. The old man collapses in tears. Lucas feels overwhelming sorrow inside. The guilt he buried all these years starts screaming. He whispers to his friends that they must leave because it's late. Francis asks Lucas to return another day. "I have something I must tell you about your parents." Lucas agrees, gets into his car, but suddenly the car won't start. Francis offers help, checks the engine repeatedly, and insists nothing is wrong. He promises to call his mechanic friend. But Arnold, uneasy, doesn't wait. He starts checking the engine himself, desperate to escape the unsettling atmosphere. Francis returns with disappointing news. The mechanic is busy and won't come until tomorrow. He offers the three of them a place to sleep at his home. But no one feels comfortable with the idea. Arnold continues inspecting the car until he discovers that the radiator hose is cut. He asks Francis if he has a replacement, so the old man accompanies him to the workshop. In the workshop, Francis examines the hose and reveals that it was intentionally cut. Then, something unexpected happens. Francis suddenly hits Arnold with a metal bar, knocking him unconscious. Meanwhile, inside the house, Lucas and Julie see someone, who appears to be Arnold, driving Francis's car and disappearing into the darkness. Lucas picks up the phone and calls Arnold, but there is no answer. He leaves him a voicemail asking where he went. A little later, they both go to the workshop looking for the old man, who tells them Arnold left to search for a hose in a nearby town. But Lucas tries calling again, still no answer. Then a text message arrives from Arnold saying he couldn't find the hose, so he is heading into the city and it will take time. At sunset, another message arrives from Arnold saying it's too late and he will sleep in the car. Francis listens, then insists the couple stay at his house in Matthias's room, and they agree. In the middle of the night, with Julie fast asleep, Lucas steps outside to get some fresh air. When he returns, he hears a faint sound from inside a closet. He opens it and finds Arnold's phone. Everything collapses in his mind. Arnold never left. He rushes to the workshop, searching, examining. In the corner, he sees Francis's wheelchair and a wooden door in the floor. He begins to investigate what lies beneath when footsteps approach suddenly. He hides. Francis emerges from the door, sits in his wheelchair, and leaves the room. Lucas now feels that something truly sinister is happening, and he wants to know where that wooden door leads, unaware that Francis already knows what he is doing. Lucas descends into the depths, swallowed by darkness, until he finds an old lantern. He discovers a heavy door secured with chains, but the lock is open. He pushes it and enters, and in a moment that changes everything, he sees his parents, alive, exhausted, bound like prisoners. Before Lucas can understand what is happening, Francis suddenly appears, attacks him, and knocks him unconscious. Upstairs, Julie begins to worry because Lucas is nowhere to be found. She gets out of bed and starts wandering around the house. She stumbles into Francis's office and looks down, shocked to find the mutilated corpse of a cat. Behind it, a picture of Lucas's family, and beside it, a strange drawing, a brutal mechanical machine, brilliantly engineered, featuring 3 seats, hanging blades, and ropes. This machine is designed to kill 3 people at once, and it bears the names of Lucas and his parents. In the basement, Francis has already finished tying Lucas and his parents to the machine. Then Francis rises from his wheelchair. He stands, with steady steps. All these years, he had been deceiving them. He was never paralyzed. He was only pretending. Francis recalls that cursed day. Lucas's silent crying in the back seat had exposed everything. Tears only Francis understood. And Francis reveals the truth. On the day Matthias was crushed, a piece of wood from Francis's load had slipped under Louis's car, and when he bent down to retrieve it, he saw the remains of his son's bicycle stuck to it. He realized that Louis had killed his son. From that moment, Francis vowed to avenge Matthias. Francis whispers to Lucas, "You destroyed my entire family, and today you will pay the price." He explains the death mechanism he designed with devilish precision, a system of interlocking pulleys and ropes linked to the weight of the 3 victims. If one of them loses grip of the rope, a sharp blade will descend and kill the others. He prepares to cut off Lucas's hand to rob him of the ability to hold on. But suddenly, Julie appears at the basement door. Lucas screams for her to run as Francis now chases her. Outside the basement, Francis returns to the house. Darkness engulfs everything. Julie strikes him on the head with a wooden chair, but the man doesn't fall. He recovers in seconds and pursues her, trying to stab her. She slips away, barely escaping, runs into a room, locks the door, and blocks it with furniture. She tries calling the police, but no one answers. As Francis is about to break down the door in a moment of desperation, Julie smashes the window and leaps out. She hits the ground, bruised but alive. But Francis is already standing right in front of her. In the basement, the parents and Lucas struggle against exhaustion. Their hands are slipping. Louis, in one last act of selfishness, blames his son. That if Lucas had just handed him the cigarettes that day, none of this would have happened. But Lucas says all of this happened because Louis was selfish, arrogant, cruel, and a prideful father. Louis finally realizes it is truly his fault, and now the only salvation is sacrifice. Louis, in a sudden transformation, begs Matilda, his wife, to let go of the rope and escape with Lucas. He pleads with her as Lucas sobs. Matilda trembles, her hands slipping. The blade drops. Louis's body is torn to pieces, but Lucas and his mother survive, falling to the ground before the blade reaches them. In the workshop, Francis has tied Julie beneath the wood-cutting machine and tells her she was never part of the plan. But this is what happens to those who date a killer. But suddenly Lucas appears and attacks Francis. A violent fight erupts between them, but Lucas finally overpowers Francis and rushes to free Julie. Yet Francis rises once more and activates the cutting machine, then charges toward Lucas. In the midst of the chaos, Julie struggles with trembling hands to free herself. She manages to shut off the cutting machine just before it devours her. Francis, having regained his strength, beats Lucas savagely, nearly killing him. But Julie, with a hammer, strikes Francis on the head. The old man collapses unconscious. The couple wastes no time. They drag his body and push him down the dark basement stairs. Lucas rushes to his mother, Matilda, to help her escape, but she is exhausted, her body failing her. This delay gives Francis the opportunity. He rises again, grabs a small knife, and stabs Matilda in the leg. In a decisive moment, Lucas pulls his mother outside and slams the wooden door shut behind him, trapping Francis in the basement. But the door doesn't hold. Francis smashes into it with brutal force until it breaks. And as he emerges, another secret is revealed. Arnold is alive, tied inside a large wooden crate, screaming for help. Francis places a heavy weight on top of the crate to ensure Arnold stays imprisoned. The remaining three, Lucas, Julie, and Matilda, flee into the forest, but Matilda stumbles, unable to walk. Lucas leads them to an old hideout where he and Matthias once played as little soldiers. With a lighter, they illuminate the place and are horrified by what they see. Matthias's corpse preserved like a doll, decorated with sickening care. Francis arrives. He shuts the door on them from the outside, shouting that his son is no longer alone now. The three decide to remain inside the hideout, hoping morning will save them. At dawn, the door is open. Lucas walks out alone to inspect the area. But the sight freezes his blood. Arnold is tied to the Schlitter, the sled Francis crafted. Any slight shift, any slip of his feet would crush him alive. Lucas tries to untie the ropes, but they won't budge. Suddenly, Francis appears, revealing that Julie is tied to a rope attached to a nearby tree. If the sled moves, she will be crushed first. Lucas urges Arnold to stay absolutely still, then runs to save his girlfriend. But Francis stabs him in the leg, and they engage in a final, brutal fight, each tearing into the other. Yet this time, Lucas, with desperate strength, hurls Francis onto a sharp wooden stake which pierces his skull and kills him. But the pain doesn't end. Arnold, exhausted, can no longer keep his balance. The sled slips free and crushes him to death. The sled then races down the hill toward the bound Julie, but Lucas steps into its path. He redirects it with his body. But tragically, a wooden stake impales his abdomen, a fatal wound. Julie tries to comfort him, begging him to stay alive. But Lucas's injury is severe, and he dies instantly, carrying with him at last the price of his silence about Matthias's death all these years. Police cars finally appear on the horizon. The bodies begin to be recovered. Louis, Francis, Arnold, Matthias, and Lucas. Only Julie and Matilda survive the massacre. They are taken away in an ambulance, and the film ends there.